Shirley here with Jupiter point of Thales. And right now it is Mars hour of Jupiter night. And Mars is 7 degrees Leo, Moon is 16 degrees Leo, Sol is in Taurus, and we have 0 degrees Sagittarius ascendant, 9 degrees Virgo midheaven. Without further ado, because this person is no longer with us, then I guess I can do that chart. Yeah. Of, people are like, why didn't you say that about me? I was like, fortunately, because I tend into political assassination prevention. The point is that you're still alive. So that, yeah, of vulnerable positions. Anyway, this is chart of Carlo Gambino. Now, mind you, a lot of people have been into a certain hype from the makeup channels of what is mafia boss. I don't know, folks. I said, I'm gonna say it again. I said, I said if I gotta pick a card, I say, hey, that person is vouching for being single. Let's tend to that. And Artemis, I don't know. So the vibes are vibing, and yeah. So I have I don't know anything about the entire mafia hype, and a lot of people, there's been a mafia trend. Okay, people talk about the mafia, people this, people that. Yeah, I attended to the Cold War, so I knew just a little bit of the Gladio operation, and in that regard. But even that, very, very briefly. Um, and so this is first time of me doing chart of someone who's declared mafia boss. And we don't have the best of data. So this is what no time. This is 24 August 1902 is birth date. We do not have an hours. We do not have the houses. And so, right off the bat, I can say it's probably the correct date because we have Saturn in its home sign in 22nd degree Capricorn, which is hierarchical, almost patriarchal, traditional structure, and 22nd degree. The number 22, there's a lot of teachings about the number 22. I've only recently been exposed to the fact that there are like wealth families and nobilities for whom this number is somehow significant. It is the number of, for what I know spiritually, is a number that denotes to kill and be killed, okay? But also mediumship and communication with the dead. So I guess with chart of people that needed to kill, that can be doesn't have to be people. It can be chart of hunters, for example. Um, and so this Saturn is opposing Mars again, 22nd degree Cancer. So we have two significations of the 22nd. And Mars in Cancer is about defending the family, defending the nation, or something that is familial conflict. And very simply put, mafia, right? So immediately right off the bat, it's kind of like, oh, the action of to kill or be killed in familial settings, which is mafia settings. So this speaks volumes. Here is and the opposition between Capricorn and Cancer, which basically denotes of the patriarchy and even orthodoxy. Okay, we know of the connection. Yes, because a lot of what mafia does is also banking, business, and transactions. Okay, just transactions of people, and in many locations you have to connect with the mafia bosses, or to open a business you have to connect with the mafia bosses, whether you pay protection or they keep the peace. in some areas. And even the birthing of army alliances can be traced back to affiliation with certain organizations that are considered mafia. So you could consider mafia a combination of a guerrilla, but with orthodoxy. Um, they're not underdogs in the sense that they are in connection with the patriarchy or with the church or with whatever religion, and the Orthodox religion, and the familial settings, which perhaps is the first buds of what we would later call the nation state. Okay, it's going from the tribe to the nation state. It's not so much as the polis, which is Gemini, okay, it is the city, but rather the tribal society. And you think about the tribe and the chief, so the person who keeps the peace around, but also have to kill people, to keep the order around in a very strict way. Okay, Saturn Capricorn was very strict, very traditional. And you think about the common people, the tribe, and later would grow to the nation state, and a union of nations, for example, would be NATO alliance. So people say, oh, this is mafia, this is pay protection, this is this. It's all stemming from the same buds of organizations of the familial settings, the familial unit. And here it can be traditional family, it doesn't have to be the tribe that needed a certain protection, that needed a certain patriarch or religious person, and that also did the banking, debt, which is also Saturn, karma, and so on and so forth. So this is a perhaps a fresh perspective on of what we call, yes, mafia. Just like with army, there's guerrilla wars, and then before anything is army, it is guerrilla, and sometimes even terror. And then for the question, what becomes army, what not becomes army, we want that what becomes what later army, or what even buds as guerrilla, is actually humane, people say rational, but basically supportive of a good life and defending of the good life. Okay, and so this tells us that this is a person that worked on the line of structure that is, yes, what people call mafiosi. Okay, that is both familial, militant familial. Yes, they had to kill, but also corporational, patriarchal, debt, and perhaps also banking, because this is for the traditional banking system. Okay, so so this is taken perhaps the word, or we think about mafia as crime, and look at it from a more structural point of view and a functional point of view of what this structure does. Many things go from mafiosi to for the legitimate business, some through money laundering, and some is natural when people need to rely on something and later it is left as dividend from protection, can become dividends, um, and protecting, okay, for whatever the mafiosi, or if you think juristically about a state witness. So the role of a state witness is basically a person that was affiliated in what people call organized crime, or mafia, and basically they serve as they testify, and they don't testify as innocent person. They testify in a business deal that is sweetening the verdict. So now let's talk about Rahu, Ketu, and the Moon. Rahu 28 degrees Libra, Ketu 28 degrees Aries. So I talked about juristic system, and this is indeed for the Mars ruling Rahu, going from being perhaps entrepreneurial, perhaps guerrilla, perhaps familial settings, into something that goes into and forms a juristic system. And again, we cannot think about removing corruption before we think about stripping away previous perspectives and looking structurally and functionally what do these systems do. Okay, a mafiosi is making money off of keeping the peace in for the place. When Michael Jackson recorded "They Don't Really Care About Us," there was a mafiosi where he recorded, and that person liked Michael Jackson. He said, "This place that's usually abundant with crime is going to be the safest place on earth for the time of the shooting," and so it was. Now we can ask a question: why didn't they do it for the rest of the time? Okay, but this is what like with every leadership, we can be more satisfied with leadership or less satisfied with leadership. And that pertains to the mafiosi, which later we would see in the Aquarius Leo, where yes, the decentralization and the keeping up to date, going outside of the hierarchical system, and having a different type, both a more global but also a less centralized form of power relations. And so this person we see started as just entrepreneurial mafia, okay, probably local mafia or even national mafia, and then, but as they understood more, they began to have, because when you are, your role is they pay you protection to be the regulator over the violence in the area. Okay, it's basically a governmental role in essence. And so to do that, you need to be able to rule in disputes. So whether you're guerrilla, mafia, whatnot, okay, there are disputes, and unless you're going to be killing everybody every day, which eventually would get you killed very quickly, then you have to have a certain system. And for this system, people think it's monetary system. Yes, it's monetary system, but it's also value system. And this is for the formation of juristic systems. So this is person that very likely had deep effect on the juristic system. Venus in Leo, 5 degrees Leo, this goes all the way to royal courts. So this is person that very likely, and I know nothing about him. That's what I love about opening charts. I know nothing about this person. Poof! But this is person that with Venus 5 degrees Leo, the ruler of Rao, okay, the rule of this juristic system, this person very likely had affected the value system and the way jurisdiction is done in royal courts. Now, as for the moon, we don't know if it is end of Aries or beginning of Taurus, but anyway, this is nakshatra that we call Ashvini. Either Baharani or Ashvini. Ashvini is a nakshatra that, yes, it's Ashvini, a nakshatra that is a healer of healers. And this is ruler of Mars, okay? This is what the moon is. And here the moon would tell us that this person came to curate the structures in their own society and to create a more just royal court system for the people. But there was conflict because his job was also to represent the patriarchs. Okay, the mafiosi, if you think about mafia, it's both a corporation and a family. And you think about a lot of traditional businesses, a mafiosi. They begin as guerrilla businesses. They begin as something, and they have to stand for the competition, and a lot of techniques to do that. From Standard Oil, that had a very, when you think about Machiavellian technique to do that, and it pays along the karma, it pays along the mental and physical health of the people. Okay, it's like. And this is where with the question is always how can you balance, and this is where the juristic system, so the formation of what we think, oh this is criminal, any business in the beginning is not legal. Okay, it's not illegal, but it's not legal. It's like there are no rules for that. And then, but there begin to be rules for anything innovative. There's no rules for that. It's a blue ocean. There's no rules. And then you have to regulate that. So this is the internal tension here. You think about a lot of the connection between, let's say, Neptune, pharmaceutics and holistic drugs, and yes, even before Standard Oil, Rockefeller, he was doing holistic healing, okay, with patents of, he patented plants. He went from the essential oils and the herbs to what we would later know as pharmaceutics. So we can blame him for all the things we don't like about pharmaceutics, but also this is a person that brought certain industrialization of the medicine through business. Yes, so we talked about Neptune. Neptune, 3 degrees Cancer, in a bisextile with the Sun in 0 degrees Virgo. Again, telling me drugs, right? Prescribed and the not prescribed, but also the mercurial ability. A great orator, a great trader, a great conversationalist, and Mercury in Virgo in its home sign. Yes, with aspect to Uranus, could be a person whose words were provoking or whose contracts were provoking. Okay, that's also important. And again, I know nothing about who this person was. For Pluto, 19 degrees Gemini. And yes, he's from the Pluto Geminis, for the Oppenheimer and the people that developed for the A-bomb. I wonder if he traded things for to do with, because when you talk about the weapon industry, then to trade the chemicals or the things that they later collected. So they bought a lot of things to put in the A-bombs, later they put it in the soil. Okay, but think about fluoride, but other things too, and toxins and things that later went into our food and into our teeth and so on, into our brain and endocrine system and so on. But this person, very likely, yes, very likely, it's not only, and you know, in such case, it can be a person begins as mafiosi, or drug dealer, or pushing drugs, or pushing whatever he can get to trade, and merchandise as well, okay, as dual business. And then, for example, at time of when they develop the A-bomb, he can trade for those things and then become legitimate business, okay? Because it's weapon trade. Okay, now your minerals or your this or whatever you would use to put in drugs, now they need it for A-bomb, and then these people consume these drugs. Okay, or you do it extra, so this extra income, and that can get you from crime position to a legal business. Uranus retrograde in Sagittarius. So this is, and Jupiter retrograde in Aquarius. This is the person who would revolutionize also on a spiritual. This is the person, I don't know when they elected Pope Francis. Okay, that now for deceased Pope Francis, but this could be a person that could be of the people who recommend which Pope to elect. That would be non-conventional. Why? Because it's religious revolution, and both because Uranus is revolving, could be, by the way, great astrologer, but a kind of astrologer that combines also the religion. And he was of the generation where Uranus opposed Pluto. That interestingly enough, this generation of the generation that developed the A-bomb. It was dropped when Pluto went from Cancer to Leo. So yes, this is what we see. He had both a strong hold on Capricorn and Cancer, and by Leo and Aquarius. So this is a person who could present himself as both a patriarch and an underdog. If you think about Pope Francis, It's giving both, right? He was the Pope, but he was considered a little bit of an underdog. Came from Argentina, okay, was more relaxed around the many things that other people were, stuck up about. And controversial in his time, appealed. Okay, there was a satire about the Pope, the new Pope. Okay, for the satire about the papacy, at his time. So this was, but then Monty Python, it was beyond Monty Python. It was directly about the Pope, and that was, and this is something that set Christianity in a place where right now, okay, leaders like Geert Wilders can say there's no satire on Islam. They say, why do you persecute a person that calls to have satire also about Muhammad, which also is synonymous with Baphomet in some perceptions. And so this presented now with a situation where the Christian tradition or the Christian religion has the upper hand when it comes to being an underdog in the face of Islam and Judaism. This is where you have to understand and predict. And this was a person that could predict. Uranus is very futuristic. What would be, okay, the religion? And sometimes what would be is not necessarily for what we want. Okay, it could be very traditional, very and you will, if you. But the thing is, if you are very traditional, you will always have your own place to lean back to. It's when you're futuristic that okay, if you have to accept that. Hey, the future is going to that. And the future is going. For example, now we are heading to bisextile, that is going to be completely young. Okay, air and fire. Okay. For women, we would have to go to circumvent. But on the other hand, we can explore our more intellectual side, our passionate side, and not just our feminine or soft side. And for some women, it will be like, kind of like it better to be in, growing my garden and stuff. But for some, I think I had an accent and it was not intentional. So it just comes up. Anyway, but and I don't know which accent it was. So I didn't mean. I don't mean to. Yes, but the thing is that for some women it's going to be like, oh my God, great! This is time. Finally, I can express myself as a scientist. I can express myself as a passionate warrior or something like that. It's like, but at other times it's kind of like, hey, nobody cared for that too much. And that is just the way that the spirit of the time is. So this is a person that definitely could predict of what would be the spirit of the time, and he could predict it even though his mafiosi, with his roots are in traditional patriarchal, maybe even papal systems, that is going towards underdogs, that is going towards a revolution in religion, but that revolution of where it's going is bringing us back to the papacy. It's bringing us back to even IRO. Okay, for the Bank of the Vatican, because Saturn 22 in his home sign in Capricorn is giving Vatican. So I don't know if he had connections to Vatican or not, but this is something that okay, for yes, if I take a look at this and the spirit of the times, I can see how Pope Francis later was the blooming flower of that soil, okay, of that environment, of these skies. So yeah, this is what I see. And with the minutes that we have left, let's look at who was this person, Carlo Gambino. Carlo Gambino. So, American. So, he was born in 24 August 1902, Palermo, Italy. But died 15 October 1976 in Brooklyn, New York. Don Carlo. So, Sicilian, okay, mafia boss. Let me translate the numerous skills that you do simultaneously. Anyway, So, yes, Sicilian crime boss who was leader and namesake of Gambino crime family in New York City. So this already relates to for U.S., I guess, following Polischi Yes, it is what I think it is. Following the Appalachian meeting in 1957 and the imprisonment of Vito Genovese in 1959, Gambino took over the commission of the American Mafia. And he played a powerful role in organized crime until his death from a heart attack in 1976. During a criminal career that spanned over 50 years, served only 22 months in prison for tax evasion charge in 1937. Again, the number 22. Okay, this is a number that's relevant to certain bloodlines and lineages. I don't know too much about it, but this I think has some occultistic meaning in that sense. Yes, criminal career. Okay, so basically larceny charge. Failed to show up in court. Years later, arrested in Manhattan as a fugitive, and returned to Brocktown. And then that was dropped. Um, so, okay, rivalry on the Castellamares clan, which escalated to the Castellamares War. Mustache beats. Okay. Traditional mafia bosses had started their criminal careers in their home country and believed in upholding old world mafia, like I said, traditional honor, tradition, respect, and dignity. They refused to work with non Italians and skeptical of working with non Sicilians. Yes, they worked only with men having roots in their own Sicilian villages. So, this is again leading to tradition. It's not given papal directly, but definitely traditional Sicilian mafia, which is another form of tradition. So, rackets. How owned the restaurant on Coney Island. Okay, the five families. Is considered the boss of all bosses. Again, the Saturn 22. Okay. So he faced, of course, assassination threats, and eventually was killed. Ah, no, it was somebody else. So here, later, 1931 is what I told you. Luciano called a meeting in Chicago with various bosses when he proposed the creation of a governing body for organized crime that would later evolve into the Commission, designed to settle all disputes and decide which families controlled which territories. It's just what I said, okay? He had to govern, so he ordered a body that governs, and they needed to settle disputes. So this is a juristic body. And this was his innovation, okay? Keto for the Aries, innovation. And this is Ashvini, to curate the fact that people fight and kill each other all the times. His goal with the commission were to quietly maintain his own power over all families and to prevent future gang wars. So again, people like this are going to be very important in transitional times where the old structure, the old order is, we need to change it. Okay, everybody understands, whether it's the WEF, whether it's the people, whether people want to go that way, if we go that way, but everybody understands that the change is occurring and that the change is needed. And now we're going to need a lot of people like this person that accommodate and innovate to create basically peace, okay, but not perpetual war. And yes, unfortunately, in this chaos, there's a lot of wars, there's a lot of battles, a lot of conflict, and basically, this is also a time that through the threshold will lead to such bodies. So I believe we will see another Gambino. If very likely we already have other Gambinos. and very likely they will come from places where there's mafia, okay, where there's a lot of disputes, people fighting each other, a lot of cruelty, and eventually we don't want to have people ritually abused all the time. Because to win all these wars, basically what is created is the result of what we see later in projects like MK Ultra that Bill Clinton himself apologizes for in 1995. And when to curate this corruption, we need to manage disputes. And we need to be accommodating for the people and being inclusive. You may be traditional, you may be not traditional, but you be who you are. And again, to not violate sovereignty of another. So right off the bat, it's the first time I look at chart of a person's non-mafia boss, boss of bosses, and I'm very honored and inspired, and the many things that they think about, and I think is very much fit for yes, for this spirit of the times. And perhaps the language where we understand that when we're talking mafia, we're basically talking business, we're talking army, we're talking governance, we're talking accommodating for the people, we're talking leadership, we're talking juristic system, all the things that will later develop into what the structure of what we call the modern state. And since we are now changing what the structures of the regimes, then Gambinos are going to play a significant role in that transition. So, yeah, thank you for watching.